G'day, Tragic here, and boom boom boom, first pack of Conquest. Very first pack from the very first cycle, the Howl of Blackmane. Awesome. Okay, let's get into this. Now, this is a kind of interesting game. I'll probably do a video at some point about how to actually play. But what's great about this game is it's kind of like got a cross between Netrunner. Can I open this easily, or do I need like a friggin' knife? There we are. It's got like a cross between sort of Star Wars and Netrunner deck building, which means that like Netrunner you have IDs, which in this case are called Warlords, but like Star Wars, those IDs come with a whole bunch of cards called the something squad, what's it called, signature squad, which is completely unique to that hero. You can't actually, when you pick that hero, you have to take those cards, and there's no other way to ever see those or use those cards. So it's a very, very unique idea, because what happens is much of the deck design process is automated for you, very much like in Star Wars, because basically your hero, like these guys here, is your most powerful card. Like imagine playing any kind of card game and your most powerful, strong card doesn't need to be drawn. It's in play from the moment the game starts and already active right from the word go. You don't have to draw it. You don't have to, worry about getting it in your opening hand, all that kind of stuff. So it creates a backbone, like a base for your entire deck design. So if you look at Netrunner decks, the IDs greatly influence the type of deck you create. And in this game, it's even more so because of the signature squads, because all these other cards come with the ID. So it creates these very flavorful and, very different feeling decks, which are based upon the individual heroes. It's quite an interesting way to deck build. And while there is a competitive scene budding, I mean, this game is really, really early. It's not even, I think it's like halfway through the very first cycle at this very moment. So it's very, very early. And while there is a competitive scene brewing, for me personally, I'm playing on a more casual level, mainly because the deck building, not that the deck building isn't deep, it just means that it's a little bit easier for me. I can just grab the signature squad and then I can build the deck to that squad. It doesn't take quite as much, cognitive thinking as, say, a Cthulhu deck where you just got like every card in the card pool to choose from and like tons and tons of cards. Now, as the game continues, it's probably going to get, quite interesting with the deck building, because like a normal game, once you stop looking at the signature squad, which is only not that many cards, it's normal deck building rules for the rest of the set. I mean, it's got all these rules about how the deck building works, but it's very, very. I don't know. I just think it's a great way to jump. You can jump into this game very easily, which is perfect for a new game, especially when there's so many other great card games out at this very moment. Anyway, let's check it out. Okay, so firstly we have Ranger Blackmane. Reaction: after your Warlord comes to a planet with an enemy Warlord, deal 2 damage to target enemy unit at that planet. Okay, well that's interesting. Now I'm going to assume you know how to play. I'm not going to go through all the rules. I really should do a rules video for this. If not, there is a FFG official rules video on their YouTube channel you should check out. It's a very good game. Basically, you've got these planets and you go to the planets. Now, the commit phase is kind of like the commit phase in Call of Cthulhu, as in you commit your troops and they commit their troops during a movement phase after deployment actions. You see, when you commit to a planet, you can commit to any planet with your deployed troops, okay? But after all that commitment happens, you then commit secretly with a secret number and reveal at the same time your Warlords, and they can go to different planets or the same planet depending where you send them. If you send this guy to the same planet as your opposing Warlord, you get to do 2 damage to a unit, and 2 damage in this game is actually quite significant. The cost curve of this game is a little underdeveloped at the moment. as the game continues, there's going to be better ways to get out more expensive cards. But for now, the cost curve is really 1 to 3. Most of the units that are above 3 cost are quite hard to get to the table at this point in time. So a 2 damage is extremely strong right now. Now, what is also interesting is that your Warlord becomes kind of like a leader for your units. Every time the Warlord leaves the HQ area, he pulls with him all the units that are at that HQ. So as the game continues, you get a larger and larger army following your Warlord around. So if you are able to sort of, predict or force the Warlord to commit to the same story you are at, you are very, very likely, especially as the game goes on, to be able to get some value out of this 2 damage, because he's going to have his army attached to him. So these are very, very good. He's obviously a Space Marine. Now, Space Marines can ally with, oh my god, I can't even know, the Tau or the Imperial Guard. So, and that's one of the ways this game is going to try and get past the really large deck pool problems that happens with LCGs, is that each faction can only ally with the opposing faction on the same, adjacent factions on the same alignment wheel. I'll put an image of that on the screen. So the Space Marines can only ally with Tau or with Imperial Guard. They can only choose one or the other. So when you're looking at a Space Marine hero or a Space Marine card, you're actually got to only think about 2 other factions inside the entire pool, as deck design goes. Anyway, so that's his effect. It seems fairly strong. The problem with this, in my experience, and I'm not a hugely experienced player at this time, is that, well, I mean, how can you assure that you're going to be able to hit? This is the kind of effect that, unless you have a way to pull or move your guy, or change your, somehow there's ways to modify your choices of what planet you're going or what planet your opponent's going, this might not ever trigger. Now, that being said, it's going to trigger. I mean, because there'll be points where you have to battle out at the same planet. But still, that 2 damage is a little more situational than it might appear at first glance. Still, I do like that as a general effect. I just don't know whether this guy is really stronger than the existing Space Marine Warlord. See, the card pool is this small, because this is literally the first pack plus the core set. Even though this is a new Warlord, there isn't enough new cards to really start thinking about vastly different types of Space Marine decks. And does this particular Warlord deserve to be the Warlord for your deck over the original Calto Warlord during the resource gen from the core set? That remains to be seen. Anyway, still I like it. There's his bloody picture on the other side. Okay, and now we have our first unit for his signature squad. This is Blackmane Sentinel. Okay, so he's a 2-drop for 2/2 with 1 command icon. That's really nice. Anything with command icons is boss. He's a soldier, Space Wolves. Reaction: after your Warlord commits to a planet, move this unit to that planet. Okay, so I quite like this as well. This is a reaction, which means that it is it's not forced, and it's optional. And what this means is, see, there's basically 2 struggles at every planet. You have a command struggle, which is based upon these icons, right? If I have X hammers at my planet and you have X hammers at the same planet, whoever has the most hammers wins the command struggle. Now, the combat only occurs at the first planet, which is where the war is actually at. That's like the front lines. And wherever the heroes are, and the heroes override this hammer struggle anyway, unless there's 2 heroes. Blah blah. At that point, let's try not to get too bogged down in explaining the entire rule set. But the point is that the command struggle is an extremely valuable struggle. It's arguably, I mean, you can't win the game just from command struggles, but you can't win the game without winning some command struggles. It is absolutely vital to your deck design that you have these little hammers all over the place. Now, what's great about this guy is that he can go to a location and he can go to the location and go, well, I'm going to sit at this planet and just suck down, add my command icons. I'll just add my command icons, add my command icons. Meanwhile, you use Blackmane over here to try and guess where your opponent is going to be sending his Warlord. If you find the Warlord, you can then trigger these reactions and move all these characters, boom, over to the same planet as the Warlord, and then you have a huge army to basically beat the living hell out of that Warlord. You've hunted him down. And that's really, really powerful, because in my experience in card games, and like I said, I'm very new to this game. I mean, I have played it quite a bit, relatively, but I've only played with the core set. And my experience with card games is that dual-use cards are always strong. And this is a dual-use card. It's like a nice 2-drop for 2 attack, 2 defense. It has a command icon, so it can contribute to those command struggles, which is so vital. Yet, unlike some command struggle units, he's not trapped at that planet. He can just jump to where the Warlord is, if needed, and contribute his to combat. And that's very, very strong. And I think that is integral to the design. And you'll find this in all the, the signature units, that they're integral to the design of the heroes. Now, there's 4 of these cards, and just so you know, this is the LCG, so cards, you're only allowed 3 of any type. But the signature squad breaks all these rules. It has its own sort of methodology. All the signature squads have the same ratio of units and support cards and stuff at the moment, but there's no saying that that's all. There could be an IG unit down the road where every single one of the units is a low-cost, army unit. I mean, it's possible. Anyway, well, that's about that. Let's check out what's this? This is the attachment. It's a relic war gear weapon. It's a 2-drop, and it has 3 skulls. Now, these skulls are shield icons. You can see these skulls up here. Basically, you can discard this instead of playing it to reduce damage by the amount of skulls on the card. So whenever someone takes a damage, not from move damage, there's some ways to get around shielding, but whenever mostly when you get damage, you can discard 1 card from your hand for each source of damage. And for every skull on the discarded card, you get to reduce that damage. So this is obviously, anything with 2 or 3 skulls especially is extremely strong, because like a lot of these kind of games, and Cthulhu itself, there's a little bit of mathematical working stuff out in your head. Oh, okay, I've got enough points to do this. I'll do this amount of damage, and then I can do this, because it's got quite a complicated combat round system. And being able to just go, well, actually, I've got a shield card, can really upset the balance. Now, the thing is, that upsetting of the combat struggles, like upsetting the math of the combat struggles, you often only need to upset it by 1 point. Maybe 2 if you're lucky. Most, like when people are casting Tzeentch Firestorm, for example, which is like a fireball spell from Chaos, people are overpaying that. That's a pay X to do X damage spell. People are if they want to do 2 damage, they'll do 3 damage to try and play around a shield spell, because usually a 1 shield spell is enough to upset that math of the combat math. But 3 skulls is just, you're basically guaranteed that your unit's not going to die. Very, very, very strong, but depending on the ability. Limit 1 relic per player. Add to Space Wolf's unit. Attached unit gets +2 and 2 hit points while it is at the planet with an enemy Warlord. Okay. Now, that is pretty interesting. There's some terminology here we might need to quickly overview. Unit means army unit. This is an army unit, or a Warlord unit, or a token. Okay, because there's tokens in this game. So unit is like a catch-all. Then there's army unit, is just these cards, the additional units. And your Warlord is also a unit. So this guy can attach to himself, which is actually quite strong because he already starts with 2 attack. So making him a 4 attack Warlord with 4 HP is bonkers. Not 4 HP, 7, 8, 9 HP. So it's 4 attack, 9 HP. I mean, that is really, really strong. His HP and attack is here. Now, most Warlords are 7 health you're looking at. So with this card attached, you can actually just, be fairly confident that you can hunt down and kill the Warlord. You only need to hit him a couple of times and he's bloodied and useless. Now the problem is, and a problem I have personally with this game in general, is that there's only one of these cards in the deck, okay? Because they are so powerful, and then there's usually a one card support card as well in most of these signature squads. Now the problem with one card slots in decks is that if you've only got a single slot dedicated to a card, there is no way, unless you have a fetch spell, that you can guarantee drawing that card. You can't plan on that card being in play. The thing that makes decks competitive, the thing that makes decks really, really powerful is creating, consistency among multiple games. You want to know that you're going to draw this at least by this turn. This card's definitely going to count. My combo, enabler is going to be out. Or combo piece, as some people call them. These are things that you can rely on, and you increase the reliability by having more copies of that card. As there is only one copy of that card, you can't go into a game thinking, well, my Warlord's going to be 4 attack, 9 health. You just can't, assume that's going to be the case. There's no way to guarantee that. You can't, effectively mulligan for that, because you've only got one card in a 50-card deck. I mean, it's really, it makes the game a little more random than I'm not sure. Like I said, I play this casually for fun. It's a very, very fun game, but it's got quite a random element to it through the way they've designed the signature squads, especially with the supports. The single card supports in the signature squads, especially for some of the other factions like Dark Eldar, for example, are ridiculously powerful. I mean, if you draw that on turn 1, you've basically won the game every time. And I think that people who are really into deck building, they want consistency not only in their own deck to function, but in their opponent's decks. They don't want to play a deck that they're going to beat 90% of the time, but on a lucky draw of that one card that happens to be in their signature squad, they lose. That kind of randomness can sort of upset the statistics of a competition. But that being said, like I said, it's a very, very fun game. I'm just not 100% with it for competitive play at this time. It's got a lot of evolution to go. Once the new factions are in and like at least 1, maybe 2 cycles are out, it'll definitely be a completely different story. But anyway, so that's that attachment. Pretty awesome. Now we have what is this? This is a location. So this is the support card I was talking about. Let's see if this is as strong as some of the others. Wow, it's a 3-drop support. That's pretty bonkers already. Now, support is quite vulnerable to orcs, actually. Orcs have quite a lot of way to destroy support cards. Each Space Wolf unit you control at a planet with your Warlord deals double damage while attacking an enemy Warlord. Well, there you go. I mean, that's a perfect example of what I'm trying to say. This card absolutely... it just doubles everything. So let me get this straight. So if you have this card on, he's doing 4 damage. If you have this card out, he's doing 8 damage, just your Warlord alone. If you have a couple of these guys out, they're all doing 4 damage each from this thing, another 4 damage from that. So it's pretty clear what this Blackmane character is designed to do, which is to bloody and destroy Warlords, to win the game through killing the Warlord, not necessarily through winning planets. So yeah, and again, this is a single copy of this card, so you can't plan on this card being part of your win condition. It's just random chance if you're going to draw it or not. It's not, you can't, in my opinion, you can't rate these cards in the same way that you rate a card that you have the choice of putting in up to 3. Interesting. And finally, we have an event. This is still the signature squad, so all the cards we've looked at so far can only be played with the Warlord that came with this pack. Blackmane's Hunt. It's got one skull and it's a 0 cost. That's what I like to see in a in an event, 0 cost. After your Warlord commits to a planet, commit your Warlord to an adjacent planet. Well, there you go. That's the card that I was talking about when I first opened the pack and saw the Warlord. This is a card that allows you to move the position of the Warlord. So probably, statistically, maybe, I guess, depending on your opponent, the best place to send your Warlord is planet 2. Then you can jump to planet 1, or you can jump to planet, 3. And that gives you the ability to protect the first planet where the war's going on, but also have the more options for cards like this. Now, there should be 2 of these cards in the signature set, and there is, which means that this is a card you can actually assume that you're going to see. It would have been better if there's 3 of these cards, obviously, and that's just the way it goes. There's 2 of them, and you have to judge it on that. And all the signature quads so far are the same ratios. They've got the 1 support card that's really powerful and the 1 attachment card that's really powerful with the 3 skulls. Still, I mean, this is a great card. I mean, it obviously synergizes perfectly with the Warlord, but if you think about it, is this enough to actually hunt down the Warlords? I suppose hunting is the name of the game with this. I mean, look, it's called Blackmane's Hunt. So if you're creating a hunt in inverted commas deck to hunt down and kill the Warlord, is this effect powerful enough? Basically, you've got 5 planets to choose from, okay? And you can choose from those 5 planets, you can choose 2, 3, or 4 and cover 3 of those planets at a given time. So that's a fairly high chance that you can actually hunt down the Warlord, especially if the planets themselves have value, which they do. They're like Cthulhu story cards. They have command struggles that give resources or cards, and they also have battle bonuses. So it's actually not as bad as I was originally thinking, the chances of finding the other Warlord, because I was originally thinking, oh, they got a 1 in 5 chance. But actually, it's much higher than that, because you only need to choose from 3 planets, and each planet covers 3 entire planets. So if you go to 2, you can cover 1, 2, 3. If you go to 3, you can cover 2, 3, 4. If you go to 4, you can cover 3, 4, 5. Not bad. 0 cost is also great because it comes, any kind of combat trick, because I'm a big fan of combat tricks. Any kind of combat trick that doesn't require resources means that it comes out of nowhere. There's no way they can really prepare for it unless they have memorized the entire card pool. Now, that is one thing about these signature squads, is that if you have the signature squad, they know a percentage of your card pool straight out of the bag. So they'll know to expect this. But they're not going to be sitting there going, well, he's got 2 resources, something's coming. You can just go, boom! Yeah! Blackmane's Hunt. Okay. So now we have IG, Interrogator Acolyte. He's a soldier. He's a 3-drop, which is, that's not beyond the realms. He's got a 1 command icon, and he's a 2/2. He's a soldier, so he's got some synergy with the soldier trait, which the core set Warlord for IG had. Interrupt. When this unit leaves play, draw 2 cards. Okay, so this is actually quite powerful. There is a sacking mechanic inside IG, so you can get this guy to the table. He can do damage. The thing is, he's only got 2 damage, so I guess the best time to sack him would be when he's got 1 damage on him, if he ever gets that 1 damage. They might choose not to kill this guy, because it's basically giving you 2 cards. But there's nothing. This is like a good example of an all-round great unit. He goes to the table, he's got a command icon, he can do damage, he can defend, and no matter how he leaves the table, whether you sack him or whether the opponent kills him, you gain 2 cards. And 2 card draw. Card draw is like one of the most powerful effects, hands down, in any card game. So that's pretty awesome. So now we're out of the actual command set. We now have 3 of every single card, by the way. So these are the cards you actually choose when you're making your deck. And this guy can be played with Blackmane. So we're going to look, we're trying to keep our minds open to synergies with Space Marines for some of these cards, because they've been released in the same pack. There might be a reason for that. Okay, Muster the Guard, another 0-cost event with 1 shield. Deploy action. Exhaust your Warlord to reduce the cost of each IG unit you deploy this phase by 1. Okay, now, like I said, I have been playing this game quite a lot online and with my friends with the core set, and I'm of the opinion that tapping your Warlord is a huge cost. I mean, your Warlord is bar none the most powerful unit on the battlefield. It is, most of your card synergies are designed to take advantage of your Warlord's abilities, and the entire deck is built around these guys. When these guys are tapped, then none of that stuff is actually really happening in most cases. And also, the command struggle I was telling you about, which is so powerful, happens after the deployment phase, and any tapped units don't contribute command to that struggle. So if you're tapping your Warlord during the deployment phase, you are saying, well, 1, you're not going to be able to win a command struggle with your Warlord. 2, your Warlord's going to not have his first retreat or combat strike. I mean, there'd have to be a really good reason to play this card, I think. The 1 shield is always good, 0 cost is always good, and this is, I guess this is a combo enabler for some kind of rush mechanic, which definitely should be in IG's future, just because it's IG. Like, you know, that's sort of like, well, really the rush deck should be Orc, but the IG itself should also have a rush element into it, just by my knowledge of the 40k tabletop. But still, like I said, deploy action that exhausts your Warlord, definitely not on my list of awesome. So yeah, a bit meh about that one. Okay, so we have another IG. He's a 1-cost event with a single shield. Another tactic. Sacrifice an IG unit to deal damage equal to its printed attack value to a target enemy army unit at the same planet. So here we go. Here we have the keyword army, which means another unit. You can't target a Warlord with this. But this is already one of the sack effects that I was talking about. There's quite a large amount of sack effects inside IG. And well, let's just have a quick look at his synergy with just another card in this set, for example, which is this guy, the Acolyte. So he's a 2 attack for 2 damage. He can then tap. Yeah, boing! He taps. He does his 2 damage. We then sack him using this card. And bam, that's another 2 damage. Then we get to draw 2 cards. I mean, that's the kind of synergy that IG is already producing inside the core set and the first pack. And it's all good. I mean, if you are playing a sack type deck that is all about cards leaving play, then this is a no-brainer. And even if you're not focusing on sack effects, it's still pretty strong. Because at the moment, anyway, there are no heal effects in the game. None at all. There is no way to heal damage off your units. Once they're damaged till they die. So having a card that allows you to take those damaged units that are very near death and go, well, these are going to die next round, and you just go, bam, I'll just sack them after their next attack. If they're not killed after they attack, my turn again, I'm just going to sack him and get some free damage, basically, because you're sure that the cards are going to die anyway. Interesting. The only downside with this card and with the sack effects in general is that the combat rounds go in like this kind of your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn, until all the cards are tapped at the planet. And what that means is if you have, 1 unit at the planet and your opponent has 2 units at the planet, 3 units, beg your pardon, at the planet, that means that he's going to get 2 attacks in a row without you having time to do anything. Because once you're going to be tapped out, basically. Okay, so it's like if you're sacking a unit, you're reducing, unless you're killing their units completely, you're reducing your ability to have an even one-on-one fight for the next round of combat. Because unlike most card games, once there's a round of combat, everyone just untaps and you go again. You just keep round of combat, you attack, me attack, you attack, me attack, untap, you attack, me, until there's no one at the planet, or you retreat and there's only one person at the planet. Anyway, so there are some downsides to that card and to sack effects in general, but well, we'll see how it goes. The Death Skull Looters. Oh, the orcs, boys. Okay, so we've got a 4-cost army unit with 2 hammers, and it's a 2/3, so it's got a nice butt on him. Reaction. After this unit damages an enemy unit by an attack, destroy a target enemy support card. Well, there you go. There's another support card destruction for orcs. So, well, I mean, it's good. I mean, it's good, but is it good? You know, is it good? Is it good? I'm not sure. It's 4 cost, which is pretty expensive for what it is. It does have 2 command icons, which does make it a lot tastier than it would be normally. But I think the real problem with this card is that at this stage of the game, there just isn't the kind of support depth inside the card pool to really warrant a specific card that will have repeatable destruction abilities. I would say that this is a card that's going to see a lot of play in the future as the game progresses. The more this game is out, the more cards that are out as it goes on and on and on. I imagine it could be quite like Cthulhu, for example, where you'll have very, very powerful supports that aren't limited to 1 copy because of the signature squads. So you're going to be seeing them. You know, they'll actually be in play all the time because they'll be part of your combos. And this will be able to destroy those things very, very easily. And I think that's going to come into play. And I also believe that the resource problem I was talking about at the beginning is going to level out. So the 4 cost might not be as much of a drawback as it is at this very early stage in the pool. But at the moment, there really isn't the kind of supports in existence to really warrant this card. Most decks that I've played against aren't even running supports. Or maybe they might be running, there's a couple of supports that are decent. But most people are just not running them at all. I mean, there's only a few choices and most of them kind of suck. And the ones that are forced upon you through the signature squad, because there's only 1 copy in the deck, the majority of games you play, you'll never ever see it. Ever. Like, your opponent will just never get it to the table because they can't be assured of its draw. So expensive, not that good an effect, but I think in the long run, this could be a very, very powerful card and a very integral card to disruption. You know, like, disruption is a concept in deck building where instead of building your own deck to be super powerful, you build your deck to stop other decks from attaining their power. It's not my favorite deck design concept, but it does work, and it's especially good at building counter decks. Because like any card game, you know, top tier meta decks are going to turn up, and it's cards like this card here that enable people to build decks that can specifically target that deck and ruin its day. They're really needed, and they often end up in powerful decks. Okay, so now we have Smash and Bash. Oops, I picked up 2 cards. Well, it doesn't matter, there's 3 of them. Smash and Bash. It's another 2-cost event with a shield. Lots of events. Combat action. Oh, Smash and Bash. Look at that. Look at that picture. I think what he's just done is he's just grabbed both their heads and like smacked them together like Lobo or something, like bam, and now his arms are coming back out. And they've just headbutted each other. Smack! Deal 1 damage to each unit you control at a target planet without an enemy warlord to ready up to 3 units you control at that planet. Deal 1 damage to each unit you control at a target planet without an enemy warlord. See, that's weird, without an enemy warlord. I'm trying to think of why I would so desperately want my units untapped if the enemy warlord isn't at the planet. Obviously, they could have other stuff at the planet, but usually where the warlord is where the bulk of the forces are going to be. There's going to be people deployed all the way up the line of planets, but you do end up with a kind of, well, in the games I've played, you do end up with a kind of trail of units following the Warlord around. And what's interesting is when the Warlord moves to a planet, because he's not deployed, he moves during a special phase after deployment, everyone moves with them, but they all move with him tapped, okay? So this is a way to untap all the units that, well, 3 of the units that come with the Warlord, and then in that first round of combat, having a vastly superior force. And remember, like I said, they could say they had like a really powerful, you know, like Dreadnought or something, like a Space Marines Dreadnought or a big demon from Chaos or something. This is a single card, very, very powerful, often used to hold locations. You know, don't come here or I'm going to eat you alive, says the big grinning demon. But the problem is, because it's a single card, it only gets to tap once and attack. So it might be able to completely chomp down and guzzle a single orc, no worries. But if you've used this card, you've probably untapped at least 2, preferably 3 cards, plus you've got your Warlord. So now he's tapped and you've got, say he's killed one of yours, you've now got 3 minimum cards that you can then attack him all in one go without him ever getting to do anything. And that could be a great way to take out really large cards. Quite like this as a combat trick. It does cost 2, which is expensive for an event at this stage. And it does deal 1 damage to each unit at the control, at the target planets. Now, orcs do have a keyword which is sort of prevalent called brutal. Now, brutal is actually, they've got to be very careful with brutal, because basically brutal means that when you get damaged, every point of damage increases your attack power by 1. In Warhammer Invasion, there was, I can't remember if it was called Brutal. It's been quite a while since I actually played Warhammer. I've actually been playing, oh actually that's a lie. I've been playing Warhammer a little bit recently, but this deck hasn't come up. But Warhammer Invasion, that is. But in Warhammer Invasion, there was a Rush Orc deck that used this exact same functionality of, you know, the more damage, the more attack power. And it was just, it was like so powerful, it was almost game ruining. It was kind of like that Yogg deck. It was just not fun to play against and really annoyed people. So you've got to be careful with that brutal. So this is a brutal enabler. You damage all your units. Not only do they untap, but they also ban. They're so much more powerful. What is interesting, which I probably didn't get across in my little blurb originally, is that this is any target planet. It doesn't have to be a planet where your Warlord's at. So while they don't have to they can't have an enemy Warlord, you can do it when your Warlord's not there. Okay? So when there's no Warlord, you don't have to have your Warlord there. Which means that your Warlord's not soaking damage, which is always a good thing. But it also means that the exact same thing we talked about, untapping everybody to, you know, just wipe out other units, getting an entire free combat round. You attack, I attack, you attack, I attack. You go through it until everyone's tapped out. But instead of the round resetting, boom, well, you have to have 1 untapped, but because of the way the round reset works. But you can then untap all your guys and get another entire free round of attacks with no attacks back. So, I mean, that is very, very strong. But again, it comes down to what I said right at the start. Exactly how often do you want to untap? Why am I so desperate to untap units at a planet that my Warlords and the opponent Warlord is not at? I don't know. It's an interesting card. I think that's the kind of card that takes a bit of finesse to use. It's going to take a bit of play testing, see it in different situations. But it's really, I'm not feeling it. I'm feeling that card. Like, I can see where that card's going to be good, but I'm also thinking there are better situations in the game to exploit that I could use a card slot for. Okay, let's try this guy. What is this? Oh, Chaos. Chaos is the man. Nurgle. When's the Slaanesh cards coming? Slaanesh and Zinch. Zinch is actually my Chaos god of choice. Oh, the all-knowledge master. But anyway, this is a Nurgle unit, so it's part of the great granddad of Plagues War. 3 cost. It's a 2 with a 4 butt. Wow, 4 for a butt. That's a huge ass. Means you can take a lot of damage. He's got 1 command unit. Anything with a command unit's good. If a unit doesn't have a command icon, it better have a good ability or some really nice base stats. And this doesn't have an ability at all. This has just got a whole bunch of keywords. I guess what you're paying for is its 4-drop on its butt. Interesting. Death Guard, interesting. There's, I don't know, a 3-drop with no abilities. I don't know. You'd have to have a reason to use this card. This is a card that I would say would be part of a deck design. The reason you would play this card is because of its 4 hit points, which is, as you've noticed, all the other cards have had 2, kind of 3 or whatever. So 4 is quite a lot of hit points for a cheap card like this. So what you're thinking about with this card is what cards can utilize those 4 points. What effects can I use to synergize with those 4 points? And that is where the power of this card's coming from. And like I said, the card pool I don't think is really deep enough to really take advantage of this card. It does have the Nurgle trait, and I know for a fact that there is a Nurgle hero because, boom, there he is in the next pack. That looks like a great unclean one to me. Tongue out and everything. Ya boing! Okay, so Heretic Inventor. It's a 1 cost. Now that's what I like to see. 1 cost army unit. 3/3 with a command icon. After this unit enters play, your opponent may move it to a planet of his choice. Bonkers. That's a great card. That's a great card, man. It's like, why would you ever not play it? Biggest problem I have with this is that it doesn't have the Cultist trait. It's got a Scholar trait. I don't think anything's triggering off Scholar yet. But wait, you say, your opponent gets to move it? He's just going to move it to like a bad place. What bad place? Doesn't matter where the hell he moves it. It's a freaking 1-drop for 3 attack, 3 defense. At some point in the game, he's going to come into play. He's got a command icon. You know, it's almost irrelevant where he sends him. He'll probably send them to the very last planets, like planet 5, or, you know, get him out of the way so it takes the longest for him to get into play. Remember, you can go to that planet and pick him up with your Warlord and add him to the you know, the Warlord sort of entourage that moves around with the Warlord. So what happens is, like, say your opponent moves him to planet 5, right? And then you, in the next round, you actually send your Warlord to planet 5. When the Warlord retreats, right, you can retreat with all the units at that location as well. So then he's with War, and then you've got a 3/3 for 1, you know, going to wherever the Warlord is. But even if you don't spend the time to go pick them up and fetch them like that, I mean, seriously, it's a 1-drop for 3/3. The random allocation of how the planets come out onto the table means that they might not want the guy to be at planet 5. Yeah, this is a strong card. Awesome card. Like it a lot. Definitely putting that in my decks. And the best thing about this card is that your opponent gets to choose where it goes, which is really fun because from what I'm thinking, it doesn't really matter where they send them. It's still a strong card because of its 1-drop 3/3 and a command icon. So no matter where they send them, at some point in the game, it's going to bite them in the butt. And they're just going to be thinking, I sent him there. That's my fault. I said, no, it's not your fault. It's just the Chaos Guard. Screw with you, buddy. Love that card. That's an awesome card. Oh, by the way, I like playing Chaos. You can see me light up when I see Chaos cards. Chaos teams with Dark Eldar or Orcs, and this is Dark Eldar right here. It's a 5-drop. Wow, uber grotesque 5-drop. That's expensive. That's too expensive. I mean, unless there's some crazy way to get him on the table. At the moment, it's too expensive. It's got a 5 butt and a 3 attack with 1 command icon. Can't take war gear. War gear is the common type of attachment that goes onto army units. Reaction. After you play a Torture event card, this unit gets +3 attack until the end of the phase, limit once per phase. Wow. torches are kind of like, they're basically a more complicated version of, well, no, they're not really. I was going to say they're a more complicated version of direct damage, but they're really a type of control card. You know, hand destruction and, you know, forcing discards, that kind of stuff. And as anybody who's played any card games will know, hand destruction cards are ridiculous. Forcing you to discards, just so frustrating. You know, oh, you're waiting for that card. Oh my god, my combo enable is gone. You bastards. I think this is, I don't know. Why do I want to have a 6 attack? I mean, 6 attack can one-shot most things, even most Warlord. But 5 cost, I mean, 5 cost is expensive. When can you get this guy out? You have to have the money to pay 5 cost. You have to have the money to pay for the torture events. You have to be winning the game already at some level to be getting the command struggles to get the money to even play this guy. I don't know. He has a powerful effect. I can see why he's highly costed, but like I said, at this stage of the game, there's a kind of problem with the cost curve of the entire game. Basically, the game is focusing on 1 drops, 2 drops, and 3 drops. And a 5 drop is just out of the price range of the speed of this game. This game is too fast for this card to really be playable at this time, I think. Interesting card. I love the effect, but I just think it's too expensive. Okay, what have we got now? Visions of Agony. Whoa. Okay, so this is a torture card. It's a 3-drop torture card. 3-drop events is actually quite expensive. It's got 1 skull, like most events. Action, excellent. Action speed. That's this game more than most has quite a lot of different, you know, the rounds, like all the phases are split up. It's almost like it's 2 separate games, or it's interesting. The phases are quite interesting, but what's interesting is that most of the actions actually have phase restrictions. So it's a combat action, deploy action we've already seen, you know, stuff like that. So anything with the word action, like this one, means that there's got a huge amount of freedom compared to most of the card pool, because it can be cast at any point in the game rather than in the specific phased zones of the game. So I always love seeing an action card because I love freedom, I love options in my cards and my decks. And it's, you know, Dark Elder, so I'm always got my Chaos deck in the back of my mind. Okay, well, it's a torture, so it can enable this guy. Look at your opponent's hand, then choose and discard 1 card for your... yeah, well, there you go. Look at your opponent's hand, then choose and discard 1 card from that hand. So this is hand destruction. Awesome. A 3-drop for 1 card is pretty expensive, though. I don't know. See how it goes, but I think 3 is a little bit expensive for that for what this card is doing. But like I just said 5 seconds ago, hand destruction is a very, very strong effect, I think. Okay, now we have a support. You'll notice this is the first support, really, we've had, isn't it? Except for the one in the signature squad. And this one will have 3 copies. So you can actually use, unlike the other ones, you can use this support as part of your deck design to seriously be assured that I'm going to get this card if I want to. So how can I maximize it? Okay, it's a unique Acheron's Palace. Interrupt. When your opponent wins a command struggle, exhaust this support to cancel either the card bonus or the resource bonus of that planet this phase. Well, I mean, this is very strong, isn't it? It's only a 2-drop, which I like. It's a real shame it's unique, but I guess it has to be because it would be kind of bonkers if it wasn't. Basically, what this is saying is, remember how I talked about, maybe I should have done the video on how to play first, but when you do your command struggles, the reward is draw a card or draw 2 cards or draw 2 resources or draw 1 resource. It depends on what planet you go to. They all have different command struggle effects. But the card draw, especially the card draw effects from the Battle of the Planets. I just had a brief memory flash to Ninja Team Gatchman. Yo! I'll cut a little bit of that in. It's awesome. Anyway, I've completely lost my train of thought because I'm imagining that weird cartoon I used to watch before Astro Boy. Anyway, what was I saying? Anyway, yeah, so what are we looking at? Acheron's Palace. Yeah, so the command struggles are absolutely vital to the game, because I mean, decks they're about options, they're about having choices, they're about having a large pool in your hand that allows you to do multiple things to deal with different situations. There's no hand limit in this. You know, you've got shield cards you can discard, you know, to stop damage. Having large hands is integral to winning this game, in my experience. And the way those large hands people come about is through winning these command struggles, and decks are completely built around these command struggles. It's almost the most important. It's almost, I mean, I don't want to say it's more important than winning planets, because you can't win the game without winning planets. Oh, actually you can do what Blackmane is designed to do and just kill the Warlord, automatically wins the game. But the command struggle is absolutely vital to winning the game, and being able to basically, because what's interesting about this card, actually, the most interesting thing about this card is you can cancel the struggle. Well, that's already pretty attractive. But the real thing about this card, what it's actually doing, is allowing you to not have to defend that planet. You don't have to go to that planet to stop them winning. You don't have to waste a unit. Your unit the unit you draw can instead be at the first planet, winning the actual first planet to gain the planet, you know, which is how you win the game, by getting the icons from the planets that you win. So in a way, this has got a bit of two uses to it. Not only is it cancelling their struggle, but it's also freeing location that you have to defend or attack with your units. And your units are, you know, especially in Dark Elder, they're a little more precious in Dark Elder, because Dark Elder is such a tricky, control-y kind of deck, you know, and so is Elder, in fact, that, you know, you're going to have lots of torture events and lots of these other events. You might not have as many units. Anyway, I reckon that's a very strong card, and I like that it's 2-drop. Awesome. That's definitely going to see play, I think. Okay, a Vaulting Harlequin. Okay, so it's a 3-cost army unit. It's got a 1-drop, it's a 3-drop with 2, I've completely forgotten how to read. I really lost my train of thought thinking about Ninja Team Gatchman or Battle of Planets, and now I'm just a wreck. Anyway, 2 hammers, 1 attack, 4 butt. Combat action. So this is an example of what I was saying. Most of the actions are actually restricted. Exhaust this unit to have it gain flying until the end of the phase. What flying does is that unless you have an effect that negates flying, when you're attacked, you halve the damage before it's placed. So if I attack you for 8, you take 4 damage. If I attack you for 2, you get 1 damage. If I attack you for 3, I think you get 2 damage. I think it's rounded up. I have to check on that. But the point is, it halves the damage. Now, what is this card for then? Well, obviously, like a lot of the Elder cards, it's very, very good at command struggles, which I just said is sort of integral to winning. But you can't win the game on command struggles. At some point, you've got to put armies on the table and stuff, right? But if you look at this guy, what he's really designed to do is he goes to the table, he puts down 2 command struggle icons, right? And then he's not supposed to actually attack. He's not supposed to attack back. He's just supposed to tap, jump into the air, do his backflip over the other guy's head, and he's gone. And then the other player is now unable to hit him, you know, or unable to kill him or put too much damage on. The problem with this card is that combat only occurs where your Warlord is, right? So if your Warlord is at the location where this is occurring, you're automatically winning the combat struggle, the command struggle anyway, or it's tied with if the other guy's Warlord's there. And then at the end of all the combat, this guy follows the Warlord back to base and is then permanently stuck with him. And once he's stuck with him, then what? You're just tapping him for 1. I mean, sure, you can tap him to keep him alive, but wouldn't you rather put the damage down? I don't know. I don't think I like this unit at all. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing about him. I mean, I'm very, very new to this game, but still, he doesn't seem cool to me. Wow, here we have a 3-cost event with 2 skulls. Power. Play during the battle phase. Combat action. Each Eldar unit you control at the target planet gains +1 attack and +1 hit points to the end of the battle. Okay. Obviously, this is strong. Obviously, Eldar units are quite weak to begin with, so this is probably a necessary card for them. But 3 cost is quite expensive. Eldar do actually swim in money because of their abilities to win all the command struggle. Still, I don't know. There is a type of attack called area attack, which will... We haven't seen any area attack, but area attack will hit everybody at the planet, not just one target unit. But the thing is, if you're adding 1 hit point to a character, you can discard this card to, you know, technically give him 2 virtual hit points, okay? For 0 cost. It doesn't cost you a dime, but it can still save the units. So you would have to have there'd have to be a really strong reason for why you want to save these units. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, obviously you want to keep them alive. The 1 attack is to wipe their board. I mean, it's a great all-around card. But I think you have to keep in mind that you can discard this card for 0 cost for 2 shields, which is very, very powerful in itself and doesn't cost you a dime. Yeah, so I think that's the way I would play this card, just looking at it. I think if I was going to put this in my deck, I would be thinking about it as a shield. If the opportunity arrived, it's great to have that combat action as an option. But I think the majority of situations, it's actually going to be the 2 shields, which is what you'd use it for. You'd probably need to run this in some decks to try it. Either way, it's a strong effect. How it actually will play out in the game is a different matter. Okay, now we have an attachment. It's a star cannon. It's a hardpoint weapon attached to a vehicle of the Eldar. Attached unit gains Armorbane. Whoa, Armorbane. Okay, Armorbane is a really awesome keyword. Armorbane means that shields no longer work. That you can't use shields to defend your cards. This is 0 cost. It's got 1 shield. Attachments and events are where the shields are, by the way. Yeah, I mean, this is all good. This is all good. I really like this card. Armorbane is one of the effects that I think is going to be really, really powerful in this game. Because like I said, there's quite a lot of combat math in this game. I mean, I'm not saying it's an overly mathy game. It's not as mathy as, say, Call of Cthulhu. But there is a lot of combat math. And anything that upsets combat math is great. Oh, yeah, I'm perfectly fine. Oh, actually, you're not, Armorbane sucker. Now, removing the player's ability to be able to use shielding is actually quite huge. Because it's removing their ability to interfere with combat math. Well, the simplest form of interference anyway. So yeah, I like that card. It's you know, slots are very, very highly priced, you know, at the moment. Because the card pool's so small, you know, the decks aren't actually that different. You're kind of all tweaking the same deck. So you build a deck and then you just keep tweaking it. There aren't like, you know, 50 different Blackmane decks coming out, which there might be later on. So slots are at a premium. So I'm not sure if there's a spot in my Eldar deck for this yet. But Armorbane is sweet. Okay, now we have a Tau unit. One of my faves. I actually have never liked the Tau in the games. Like, I don't like the lore. I don't like the look. They look very anime-ish. And, you know, they're just not, you know... I don't know. I've never liked the Tau in the 40k universe when they came out. They're one of the... I think they're the most recent addition, along with... They came a bit after Necrons. Yeah, but I love them in this game. They're freaking awesome in this game. Really, really cool. Probably my second favorite faction in the game, after Chaos. But a long way after Chaos. Okay, so it's a 3-drop 2/2. No War Gear attachments. It has mobile. Oh, I love Tau. Reaction. After this unit moves from one planet to another, draw 1 card. Bonkers. Okay, mobile is also one of the most powerful effects in the game, in my opinion. It's ridiculously strong. And it's another one about, you know, because basically the way deployment works and the way movement works with the Warlord and all the units attached to him works is that there are restrictions on how easily you can move your units throughout the system, throughout the 5 planets. There's all these different restrictions in the rules to stop you from being able to field your units just wherever the hell you want. We've already seen one card that allows these guys to jump around and jump from any planet to Blackmane to hunt down and kill warlords. And I think I went through it back then. I mean, I can't remember what I said now, but they're strong. That's a strong effect because you are sort of bypassing a restriction in the base rules of the game. You know, that's not as powerful, but that's like saying, look at the top 10 cards of your deck or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's removing that removes uncertainty. This removes the worry of deployment strategy, you know, and it means that your deployments and your movements have more freedom. It's very, very strong, I think. Now, mobile, what's interesting about mobile, and this is something that comes from the game being so young, is that its timing structure is not quite as defined as it kind of should be. At the moment, mobile is sort of in this ethereal timing zone at the start of the combat phase, but before actions, before even forced reactions. You know, it's actually like, it's a bit like Thalen's ability in Lord of the Rings, which is kind of like outside of every single timing structure in Lord of the Rings. You know, Thalen's put 1 damage as they come out of the encounter deck. So mobile's sort of like that. It's got a little bit of a timing structure issue that needs to be resolved in the FAQ at some point to be defined. But what happens is you have all your deployments, everything's deployed, people have worked out all their math, combat starts and boom, oh, by the way, I'm moving this guy over here, I'm moving this guy over here, boom. It happens after the command phase though. So you can't, he doesn't have any command icons anyway, but you can't use mobile to ensure wins at command struggles, which is an extremely, you know, precisely acute idea. You know, that's there for a reason, that you can't use mobile to win command struggles. But it does help greatly for combat. You know, very, very cool. I think we will see command icons on mobile units. And remember, there is an attachment in the core set called promotion, you know, which is great because you can send a guy there, you can move him to another planet if you want to win. You know, there's lots of stuff you can do with mobile. I really like mobile, and I think it's one of the most undeveloped of, well, actually, I think Armorbane is probably the most undeveloped keyword. But once the card pulls big, you know, entire mobile armies of like spaceships and like, you know, scooters and like, you know, the Space Marines with the jetpacks and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be awesome. This game has got so much potential to be awesome. Okay, I'm not even going to bother pronouncing this guy. It's a 4-drop with 4 drops expensive, with 4 attack and 3 defense. Wow, ambush, my god. Ambush, ridiculous. Reaction. After you deploy this unit, each other Tau unit you control at this planet gets +1 attack until the end of the phase. Force reaction. After this unit resolves its attack, move it to HQ. Interesting. What's so great about ambush is that it's like the ultimate combat trick. The problem with ambush is that it requires you to have resources available and on the table. So it's not a 0-cost combat trick, which is the best kind. You can see when this is possible, you know. Basically, what ambush means is that when combat starts, you can then play this from your hand and deploy it directly at the planet as an action. Pretty sure that's right. I'm a little bit rusty on ambush. I'm pretty sure that's right. But anyway, he comes out into play as a surprise at the planet. Now, you still have to pay the full cost, which is 4, which is quite expensive. But giving everyone +1 attack is quite strong. Now, remember, this is a deploy reaction, okay, after you deploy. That means that he'll only ever gain that ability, that +1 all the time, when his ambush ability is triggered. That's the only time that that's going to work. After that, he's stuck at home with the Warlord. But then again, I mean, he has got 4 attack, base attack, so he's pretty damn strong on his own. Still, 4 cost is pretty expensive. I do love ambush. And the problem with this card is that, I mean, maybe because I play Chaos and they've got some of the highest cost curves in the game, I'm often starved for resources, and 4 cost is quite strong for a one-off effect. So it's basically like an event, you know? It's like a 4 cost event. Interesting. I think that's a strong card, but I mean, wasn't there a card we just saw only 5 seconds ago that was like +1 damage? Okay, here, this is a card here. Very similar a card. It's an event card. It's got 2 shields though. This one only has no shields because it's obviously a unit. Let me put this card down where you can see it. So this card adds +1 attack and +1 hit points to everybody at the location. Okay? It has 2 shields, so it's got multiple uses if you don't have the resources available. It's cheaper, but of course you don't end up with a 4/3 sitting at the table ready to smash face. Still, this is an example. I think these cards are actually closer related than you might think. They're both, even though this is a unit, it's really an event. And like an event, you actually have to have the resources visible and ready to play, which means that you've forgone playing your powerful unit. If you are saving resources at the wrong time, your opponent's going to know something's up. Okay, because this isn't so much a rush game, or not yet. It looks like it could be, but you know, it's all about units, man. Get units on the table and go kill people. So if you're holding credits, you're basically saying I've got an event, or I've got some kind of trick in hand, or I'm saving up for something huge next turn. Interesting card. I'm not too thrilled about them. I usually love ambush cards. Okay, we have another location. So we're starting to get a lot more locations. Homing Beacon. Okay, 1 drop. Limited. Limited is kind of ridiculous keyword in this. Maybe it'll come. Basically, limited means that you can. It's like limited in Star Wars. You can only play 1 limited card per round or per turn. Reaction. After your unit you control moves to your HQ, exhaust this support to gain 1 credit or draw a card. After a unit you control moves to your HQ. Okay, that's redonkulous. It is not limited. So basically, every single time your Warlord retreats, you draw a card or get a credit. Is that what that's saying? That seems very strong. After a unit you control moves to your HQ, exhaust. Well, if that's not in your Tau decks, then there's something wrong. I mean, it's 1 drop. You only have to use it once to pay its cost, and it replace, you know, oh man, it's just, that's freaking awesome. You're going to use that every single round that it's out for a resource or for card draw. If it was only one or the other, it might not be as strong, but because it's both, you can choose depending on what your situation is. I mean, that's awesome. Calamity. It's a true event with 1 skull. Nice art. Headquarters action. See, again, most actions are restricted in their time. Return each army unit with printed cost 2 or lower to its owner's hand. This only affects army units, which means it's not going to affect tokens. Usually, because there is tokens in this game, and token bouncing is very, very strong because the token is bouncing a token is basically the same as destroying it. But this doesn't affect tokens. So there's a couple of things this can be good for. 1, it only works on people. Return each army unit with printed cost 2 or lower. It doesn't know. It's not actually targeting headquarters. It's anyone on the table. This is an interesting card. This could get rid of some of those very cheap command units that are 1 and 2 drop, which are, you know, quite common, especially because of the cost curve at the moment, which I've talked about a bit. Yeah, I don't know. There's a couple of token generations, you know, that say Chaos or Dark Elder. They're quite good at token generation. IG is pretty good at token generation. I think Chaos are the real winners in token generation because it's actually cost reduction at the same time. Dark Elder's token regeneration at the moment is focused on damage. But, you know, if you've got a whole bunch of tokens, you cast this, you've got a whole bunch of cards left over. Also, what's interesting about this is that it happens in the headquarters phase, which is at the very end of the turn. I don't know. It's an interesting card. I can't decide. I mean, it's got 1 skull. It's a 2 drop. I don't know. I can't see myself using this card, but this is the kind of card, because it's got such a sweeping effect. You know, it's such a large effect that there will be, I guarantee you, there will be some kind of small combo or even a combo deck that could be built around this card at some point. This will become something. The ability to bounce all those cards so easily is always a strong event, strong in any game, any kind of board wipe. But still, I don't know. Most of the big threats are 3-drops. I don't know. It does clear out those command icon stuff. Oh, and that's it. That's the end of it. Wow. Well, how awesome. That's the first pack of a new set. Let me see if I can find what's my favorite event, favorite graphic. Look at all these cool things. Yabong. Oh, my favorite card, easy. And what else have we got here? Meh. Not a huge... Oh, wait. Actually, I do know what my favorite art is. Where's my favorite art? Come on. Where's that orc smashing everyone's heads together? That's just so funny. Where are you? Orky. There we are. Smack. They're my two favorite cards. Favorite art and favorite card is this Chaos card. He's just ridiculous. Very good pack. Awesome. And that is the Howl of Blackmane. Okay, well, I'll see you guys next time.